The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Vice Chair Orenshaw. Senator Goycochea. Senator Daly. Senator Krasner. Chair Flores.
Present. Please let the record reflect 4 members are present. We have a quorum. Please mark Senator Goycochea as absent excused and mark him present when he makes his way back into our committee. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Senate Committee on Government Affairs, the very hard-working Committee on Government Affairs. On today's agenda, we have 2 bill presentations, followed by public comment. We're going to take the agenda in the order it appears. I want to remind folks to please silence your cell phones. I am doing that myself now. Anybody wishing to testify today, please make sure that you provide your information to our committee staff so that they have your information should we contact you for minute purposes later. I want to remind folk that you can always submit testimony in writing, and we'll make sure it gets uploaded for the particular bill that you're interested in. Please state your name. For those of you who will be testifying, please state your name for the record after each question for purposes of allowing our staff to do their job more efficiently. And with that, I always like to encourage and remind folk, those of you who are going to be testifying in support, opposition, or neutral, if somebody's already stated your argument, feel free to say ditto. I agree with that, and just put your name on the record. No need to repeat support or opposition if your arguments have already been put on the record. With that, I'd like to open up the hearing on Senate Bill 261, which revises provisions relating to local government. Senator, welcome. And Senator Neal has promised that this presentation will be kept at 8 minutes and 52 seconds.
I don't know. I have a little baby chair. Like somebody lowered this.
Whenever you're ready, Senator.
They're all been lowered.
All right. So good afternoon, Senate Committee on Government Affairs. I'm Senator Dina Neal. I'm here to present SB 261, here with Chamber, Mr. Maratkin, who will also co-present on the amendment. So I'm just going to give some brief remarks. So SB 261 has a lineage in this building. Business impact statements were passed in 2013. And basically, the goal of business impact statements are to make sure that a governing local body, that if they're going to impose any kind of regulation or rule, that they actually look at the significant economic impact that will directly affect the business and try to make note and pretty much try to minimize the economic impact to businesses. So SB 261 does a couple of things. It adds to who is now considered to be covered under local government. If you look at Section 2, it adds other entities, but it also adds a quasi-municipal agency, a local health district, municipal utility, regional transportation commission, and special improvement district. And these entities were added because over a period of years, they have been the groups that have needed some level of finessing in order to include them into the business impact statements so that they could actively let businesses know that the regulatory process that they are planning on considering and the rules, that they will actually be followed. So the bill goes on to add other pieces, as in the notice on how they're going to give notice in Section 4 to the Chambers of Commerce, and there's an amendment there, and then it also talks about how workshops should actually be administered. And with that, I'm going to turn over the conceptual amendment to Mr. Maratkin, who's going to talk about this notice provision in the Chambers of Commerce.
For the record, Paul Maratkin with the Vegas Chamber. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. First of all, I'd like to thank Senator Neal for her introduction and sponsorship of SB 261. The Chamber has been working to strengthen the business impact statement since 2013, when Senator Neal at the time passed initial legislation to codify the process of the state and local levels of government in Nevada. SB 261 continues the efforts by streamlining the business impact notification process with Chambers of Commerce and Trade Association and local government entities. 261 specifically deals with the local government chapter of the business impact statement. This bill will standardize how business groups are notified about proposed local government changes that impact the business community. It will also clarify, as Senator Neal has said, which local government entities must comply with the BIS process, as we refer to it locally. There have been discussions in the last several years which entities are to be included in the process, and the Chamber believes, along with Senator Neal, that the original intent was to be broad in scope of who had to comply. At the Chamber, we have over 70 different industries within our membership, and we're typically their primary point of contact to let them know about changes that are happening with proposed local ordinances. Many of our small business members rely on us to notify them of these proposed ordinances changes, as they do not have a lobbyist or dedicated staff to track these items. However, the current notification process can be challenging at times because of different methods of communication and outreach. Some are via email to chamber staff, to other trade associations, some are by written notice, or some notification not at all. At times, one trade association or chamber of commerce is notified, while another one is not or is notified, and different staff within the organizations are notified. This inconsistency is challenging for us at times to receiving the information and getting out to our members on those city or local government entities' behalf. Consistency and transparency are key factors of being successful with the business impact statement. I do want to acknowledge several local government entities who've done a good job, and we believe that this bill will best codify those practices we've seen in several of our cities in Southern Nevada, including the city of Las Vegas, Henderson, Clark County, and the Southern Nevada Water District. Clark County, along with several cities, have proposed an amendment that preserves the intent of the bill but addresses any unintended consequences regarding increased workloads. The amendment proposed you see by Clark County that was submitted by Joanne Jacobs in collaboration with the city of Las Vegas and Henderson restores existing language in Section 3 that pertains to a fee that has been negotiated pursuant to a contract between a business or a local government. So that original language that's currently in state law would remain. It also changes the proposed language in Section 4 that 2 or more chambers or trade associations may call for a workshop instead of a workshop automatically occurring every time there is a BIS process. We believe this compromise is fair and that we have no objection to this proposed amendment and consider it to be a friendly amendment, understanding our partners in local government and their concerns. Thank you, and I'm happy to address any questions from the committee today, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and Senator Neal for her efforts.
And thank you both for the presentation. Did everybody get a copy of that amendment? I think they're hopefully emailing those to the committee members. With that, we'll open it up for questions. Members, any questions? Senator Daley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. More of a comment than maybe an actual question. But in the definition up on the, where you added in Section 2, quasi-municipal agencies. So I don't know if you captured everybody you wanted to or not, but I know you have other entity, and then I know there's water district, water conservation district. But I was thinking, at least in northern Nevada, we have a water authority, Truckee Meadows Water Authority. I don't know if you have a similar organization down south. We also have the airport authority. We also have general improvement districts, various things. So I didn't know if they were already captured or if you wanted to make sure you captured some of them. And I don't know if they're making the rules or regulations that would impact small business like some of the others. But if you're going to capture everybody, you might as well capture them all. So that was just my thought more than a question. If you think you got them covered, then I'm good too. But
Senator Dina Neal, for the record, I think we have it covered because it says political subdivision, comma, other entity of the state or a quasi-municipal agency. And I think that covers it.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you both for the presentation. I've never
Is that
seen.
8 minutes?
I think that might have been exactly 8 minutes and 53 seconds, Senator. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support, either in Carson City or Las Vegas, to please come forward. Good afternoon, welcome. Whoever wishes to go first.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Trey Abney with the Abney Talcon Group, here today representing the 2,000 Nevada member businesses of NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Business. We want to thank Senator Neal and the Las Vegas Chamber for coming forward with this bill. Anything we can do to make sure that small businesses, and again, my folks, the average employee counts about 4 to 8 people. So anything we can do to notify them of things that will affect them coming from local governments, we support. Obviously, the language in here, trade associations after Chamber of Commerce, is very important to us. NFIB maintains great relationships with our local governments, but we certainly expect and would hope to be on that list of notification when the time came. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Lindsay Knox with McDonald Carano on behalf of the Builders Association of Northern Nevada, Southern Nevada Home Builders Association, and the Nevada Home Builders Association, which makes up the Builders Association and Southern Nevada Home Builders. We are in support of SB 261, as we think that, again, like Trey said, with the associations, it expands the opportunity for our voices in the business community to be heard as local rules are being made. So we thank Senator Neal, and thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Good afternoon. Cheryl Blomstrom, representing the Nevada Trucking Association. The vast majority of our members are small businesses, and we think that including small business membership, small business voices in the crafting of regulatory things like this helps compliance, helps our small businesses know what they need to do to comply, and helps them be compliant, which is the point of making regulations. And we'd like to thank Senator Neal for bringing this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. For the record, Andrew McCam, the Executive Director of the Nevada Franchise Auto Dealers Association, simply put me as a big ditto. As Mr. Marakin said, improving consistency and noticing, as a result, creates better transparency in government. And appreciate Senator Neal and your time. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, please.
Thank you, Chairman Flores and committee. My name is Terry Graves, for the record, representing Nevada Manufacturing Association. And I won't be repetitive, but the manufacturers are a lot of small businesses, but most manufacturing projects require a lot of time, effort, and financial resources to become established. And to that extent, they're expecting long-term residency wherever they're located. And we think this bill helps also provide some stability in the regulatory process for these folks. So we appreciate the sponsors bringing this bill forward. We support it.
And thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. Misty Grimmer with the Ferraro Group, representing the Nevada Resort Association. We too are in support of this bill and are appreciative to Senator Neal and the Chamber and the local governments for bringing it together and working on the amendment, and we would encourage the committee's support.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Ashley Cruz with Career Nevada, for the record, here on behalf of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. Many businesses that the LVGEA works with are partners to bring or grow here in the region are small businesses. The LVGEA supports measures that look to provide clarity as to how public entities are reaching out to those constituents to ensure we connect and gain their input during the lawmaking process. We thank Senator Neal for urging this discussion to occur and urge your support.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. Simply a big ditto. I want to thank Senator Neal for bringing this bill forward and also for working with our colleagues from the South on the amendment and giving a voice to us small businesses and the memberships that we have. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else wishing to speak in support of Senate Bill 261, either in Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us on the phone?
If you'd like to testify in support of SB 1261, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. BPS, do we have anybody on the phone wishing to join us in opposition to Senate Bill 261?
Actually, we have one in support. One moment, please.
Okay, we'll go back to support.
Great Chair and members of the committee, Natalie Buckle, for the record. I am testifying on behalf of the Henderson Chamber of Commerce.
I'm sorry to interrupt
More than
you.
1,800 businesses throughout.
Give me one quick second. I'm just going to try to get the audio to be a little bit louder so that we can hear you in the committee room. Can we have you start your remarks again?
Yes. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Greetings, Chair and members of the committee. Natalie Buckle, for the record. I am testifying on behalf of the Henderson Chamber of Commerce, which represents more than 1,800 businesses throughout Southern Nevada. As an organization that represents the breadth of Nevada's employers in all business sectors, sizes large and small, our chamber is supportive of this initiative. We thank Senator Neal and the Committee of Government Affairs for bringing this forward, as we believe this is a great assistance for new emerging small businesses to provide the notices and specifically workshops on code amendments. As this can have a fiscal effect on business, it is imperative that a business can financially prepare for. This can be a very challenging thing to navigate for a smaller business, as this can be something they have not yet had to encounter during their time. We feel that adding the chambers of commerce to the required distribution of these updates will create a beneficial advantage for not only the business, but for the governing city, as businesses have another source to ensure that they are complying with local ordinances. Thank you for your time.
And thank you. BPS, did we have any other callers wishing to testify in support?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 261, please press star 9 now or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. And with that, anybody wishing to testify in opposition here, either in Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none. And BPS, just for the sake of clarity, do we have anybody wishing to testify over the phone in opposition to Senate Bill 261?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 261, please press star 9 now or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Perfect. And lastly, do we have anybody wishing to speak in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas? We do have some folk coming up in Carson City, so we'll start here. Good afternoon, welcome, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. My name is Steve Walker, and I'm representing Lyon County, so you're getting a rural county perspective instead of just the urban areas. We're neutral. We think the bill has a good idea, but there is some issues that will be hard for us, in that the public workshop is, the contact list is hard for us to maintain because we only do a business impact statement every few years, maybe 4 or 5 years. So the list would be hard to maintain. And also on the summary of the workshop, that would be available on the meeting minutes when you do the workshop, and it could be done there. And also, because of the fact that we only do them every 3 or 4 years, guessing the business impact or what businesses are impacted would be hard for us to be something of a wild guess. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Please.
Thank you, Chair Flores. Vice Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee, Joanna Jacob on behalf of Clark County. We are neutral with the amendment, and I just wanted to speak to the collaborative effort that we did with my colleagues here from the City of Las Vegas and City of Henderson. Would like to also thank the Chamber for noting that we do try to facilitate stakeholder input in our ordinance process. The amendment was offered merely just to try and facilitate that in a way that would not overly burden kind of a lengthy ordinance process that we all have in Southern Nevada, while also maintaining the spirit of collaboration and outreach. Our ordinance process, and I know my local government friends here can probably speak to the same timeline. The first, and I'll say it for the public who might be listening, the first introduction for the ordinance in Clark County is when the board gives direction to our staff to draft an ordinance. That's when the stakeholders might hear where the board is going and what they would like to see in the ordinance. then staff drafts the ordinance. That's when we will send it out to businesses impacted. We wait for a comment period, which is typically 15 days. And then that's where in the ordinance, where we contemplated that would be during that comment period is when the trade associations and chambers could request a workshop if they were noticing that this would have an impact on their businesses. When that request comes back in, and then we compile the comments, and then depending on how lengthy that is, that could be a very long, or it could be a short process. We review the business impact statement on our agenda, the ordinance gets introduced, then there is a hearing. We've had short ordinances, we've had very long ordinances. Most recently, this committee might remember the short-term rental ordinance for Clark County was over a year and a half in the making, with a lot of public workshops. I personally participated in that, and we took a lot of community feedback. I think that this amendment that we have, I want to thank Senator Neal for working with us, because I think this will help us work more collaboratively with our business community and formalize a process that we can have for communication. And I will leave it there, pass it over to my colleagues at the cities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Kelly Crompton, representing the city of Las Vegas. I echo the comments from my colleague at the county, and will say that I appreciate the bill sponsor as well as the chamber for working with us over the weekend to get a proposed amendment that'll work for our cities and the county, and to be collaborative with the stakeholders within the community, like the chambers, like the other trade associations. So we appreciate the collaborative work. Thank the bill sponsor for working with us. Thank you.
And thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the committee, Nicole Rourke, representing the city of Henderson. I just like to echo the comments of my colleagues. We certainly work with our businesses through the business impact process now. And often, if there is a specific licensing issue or things like that, we will reach out to an industry to do some of this work. So we feel like this amendment is a good compromise that really mirrors a process that we're already following. Again, thank you to the bill sponsor. Thank you to the chamber for working with us to make this bill a streamlined process. Thank you.
And thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position? Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas. BPS, do we have anybody on the phone?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for SB 261, please press star 9 now, or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Senator Neal, any closing remarks? None? With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 261. Thank you, Senator. And next, I'd like to open up the hearing on Senate Bill 264, which revises provisions relating to collective bargaining. Senator Doñate, whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Flores, and good afternoon to the members of the Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, my name is Fabian Doñate, and I represent Senate District 10 in the heart of Las Vegas. I come before you today to speak on Senate Bill 264, and with me today I have Mr. Rick McCann from NAPSO. He came to me a few months ago discussing an issue that they have encountered on the front lines, and so I want to go ahead and turn it over to him so he can describe the issue and how we plan to address it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and staff. My name is Rick McCann. I am here today representing the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers and the Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition to assist in presenting SB 264. First, I wish to thank it's a mutual admiration society, I guess, here. I'm going to thank Senator Donate as well as Senator Pezzina for their co-sponsorship of this bill. Existing law, which is NRS 288.140, requires that employee organizations composed of police officers, sheriff's deputies, and other law enforcement officers be composed exclusively of law enforcement officers. That's the existing law. This maintains the community of interest for law enforcement personnel in their bargaining unit and prevents non-law enforcement organizations from coming in and attempting to take over those bargaining units. Pretty simple process. Section 1 of this bill repeats this requirement, as you can see, for law enforcement employee organizations, and adds that employee organizations composed of civilians who provide support services to a law enforcement agency also be composed exclusively of those civilian law enforcement employees. Law enforcement civilian employees provide vital services to law enforcement agencies, including crime scene investigators, dispatchers, abuse and neglect specialists, cold case investigators, and so on. Civilian employees who provide support services to law enforcement agencies, as I said, are vital to the police paramilitary structure. And it's necessary to provide them with the same exclusivity provisions in their bargaining units as their law enforcement colleagues in order to protect their communities of interest. That's the bottom line to all units in collective bargaining, is to provide community of interest. Now, I don't want to confuse anyone on this committee, since you all heard me a couple of weeks ago come in here with a different bill, SB 166, in which I was asking for the same exclusivity provisions, but that was for state law enforcement. And we always have to keep that in mind. That was for state law enforcement officers. This bill, 264, SB 264, excuse me, asks for that exclusivity to protect our civilian law enforcement employees on the local level. One amendment that we must offer to this committee under Section 1, I think it's on Nellis. If not, I think we have hard copies here. On page 2 of the bill, line 20, it says, quote, "and," that's the word, "and civilians who provide support services to a law enforcement agency," end of quote. The word "and" should be "or." My screw up. I could probably use a more difficult word, but I won't use it. I messed up. Apparently, I don't know the difference between "and" and "or." So they fixed it at the last minute. You see that change here in front of you. Law enforcement officers should be in their own group, exclusive group, and civilian law enforcement employees should be in their own civilian law enforcement group to maintain their own community of interest. The word "and" denotes they can be in each other's groups. That was not the intent. That's not correct, so we needed to substitute "or" for "and." And with this amendment, I have been asked by Attorney Mike Langton up here in the north to say that their clients, I know this is not support time, it's presentation time, but I won't get another chance. So he's asked me to indicate that the Washoe County public employees and the Carson City public employees are also in support of this bill with that amendment. And for those reasons, we ask for your support of SB 264 with this minor amendment. Thank you.
And thank you both for the presentation. Members, any questions? Senator Goycochea, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. McCann. I guess I'm a little bit iffy on, or a civilian who provides support services. That could get clear to the janitor.
Rick McCann, for the record, thank you for the question, Senator. I don't know who is going to be in a civilian law enforcement officer group. Typically, they're defined by their own customs within that group. For example, one of the individual groups that we represent who is behind this group is for the Metropolitan Police Department. They have about 1,500 or so individuals that comprise, 30 or 40 different job classifications. I don't think you're going to find janitors in there. I won't argue, sir, that if somebody wants to argue within their group that they want to include civilians, law enforcement agency people, but I think typically, and I would defer to the experts in these areas who work in that area, you're not going to find that level of job description in it. It's going to be those who work within the paramilitary command structure, if that answers your question, sir.
Okay, just a clarification. And so technically it would be even a county sheriff's department, it would be up to them then to determine how deep they wanted to get with this collective bargaining.
Rick McCann, for the record, thank you, Senator. I would suggest to you it wouldn't probably come down to the sheriffs. They're part of the management process. Yeah. This is a union, so it would be up to the union to define their particular areas. But again, I stress to you the paramilitary command structure. The people with the PPA, Metro PPA, civilian employees, they work under a command structure. As a matter of fact, their people who are their supervisors, as I recall, are in fact command individuals. They are lieutenants and captains within the police department. So they work under that. And again, at some level, you don't work under the police department command structure. That would probably take you out of that level.
All right, thank you. And it's just, I just afraid we could get too deep. Thank you.
Rick McCann, for the record, we don't want to get too deep with me, sir.
Members, any additional questions? Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you, Chair Flores. Thank you for your presentation. So I just want to clarify, currently, it's two separate bargaining units. One is for exclusively law enforcement officers, and the other is for persons who provide services for law enforcement officers. And now you want to combine those, is that correct? No, okay.
You saw me shake my head. Rick McCann, for the record, thank you for the question, Senator. That was what the "and" was going to do. That's why we had to change it, and I panicked when I saw "and." We put "or" in there because current law is law enforcement officers have their own exclusive law enforcement group. That stays. Civilian law enforcement people who work under that command structure would have their own civilian group. They are not combined. They were never intended to be combined. They will not be combined by this bill. That's why the difference in the "and." When you read it "and," you can see it that way. The "or" means you can have one, the other. They're not combined together. It's never the intent of this bill to combine law enforcement officers in their union with civilian law enforcement people in their union. They are not combined. They are going to be separate in this bill.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation. I'd like to invite you to sit back. And at this point, we'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 264 to please come forward. Good afternoon, welcome. We'll start in Carson City and then we'll go back to Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Chair. John Abel, representing Las Vegas Police Protective Association as well as Public Safety Alliance of Nevada, testifying in support of SB 264.
And thank you. Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Marlene Lockhart, representing SEIU 1107, and we are in support of SB 264. Thank you.
And thank you. Next, we'll go to Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee. My name is Jason Begun. I'm one of the executive directors at PPACE, and I'm here to basically say I'm also in support of this this bill. I want to thank the sponsor and Mr. McCann for their presentation, and we are very much in support of this bill. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next person in Las Vegas, please.
Thank you, Chairman, Senate Committee. My name is Shane Sills. I work for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department as an IT supervisor. I support Senate Bill 264, and I'm asking that the Chairman and committee support this bill as well.
And thank you for joining us. Next person in support in Las Vegas.
Good afternoon. My name is Bobby West. It's BOBBIEWEST. I'm a crime analyst with LVMPD in Southern Nevada, and I'm in support of SB 264 and ask the chair and your committee for your support on this bill as well. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas wishing to join us in support of Senate Bill 264? Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us on the phone? Support for Senate Bill 264.
If you'd like to testify in support of Senate Bill 264, please press star 9 now or take your place in the queue. There are no callers.
Thank you. We'll stay on the phone. Anybody wishing to...
One moment, Chair. Sorry, there's one.
Hello, my name is Sean Gallagher. I'm the president of the Nevada State Law Enforcement Officers Association. We support this bill, and ditto on what Rick McCann Consulting put on the record. Thank you. We do support the bill. Thanks.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else wishing to join us over the phone in support or opposition to Senate Bill 264?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Anybody in Carson City or Las Vegas in opposition to Senate Bill 264? Seeing none, We'll move to those wishing to testify in the neutral position, Senate Bill 264. Good afternoon, welcome. We'll start here in Carson City, and then we'll move back to Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and committee members. Steve Walker representing Lyon County. I did sign up in opposition with the explanation of the amendment, understanding of it. That would move us to neutral. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. We'll go to Las Vegas, please.
My name is Bruce Snyder. I'm the Commissioner of the Government Employee Management Relations Board, who administers the collective bargaining for the state and local governments. I have no comments, but I'm just here in case there's any questions.
And thank you for joining us. Members, any questions? Seeing none, thank you. BPS, anybody wishing to join us in the neutral position for Senate Bill 264?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for Senate Bill 264, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Senator, any closing remarks? Seeing none, with that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 264. Thank you for the presentation. And the last item on the agenda is public comment. Anybody wishing to join us for public comment, either in Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, BPS, is anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
Public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. And with that, members, thank you. That was rather smooth. I'll see everybody here on Wednesday. This meeting's adjourned.